It was back in 2016, but the memory remains so vivid that sometimes I still wake up at night, breathless, heart pounding, as if the forest is still around me. I'm a man who's always found comfort in isolation, and the woods just south of my hometown were my refuge. A place I'd go 4 or 5 times a year to clear my mind, disconnect, and reset. That particular weekend, the urge to escape was strong. I tossed essentials into my backpack with mechanical precision, like my hands already knew it was time to disappear into the stillness. I drove down to the trailhead, one I can't even say was official. It was always empty. No hikers, no signs, no real marker on the maps. Maybe that's why I liked it. Felt like mine. After parking on the side of a dirt road shaded by tall, whispering trees, I began the familiar 2-hour trek deep into the woods. The terrain flat but dense with thick timber, a natural wall between me and the outside world. The site I always used wasn't much. Just a clear patch with enough room for a fire and my small tent. As the sun began its descent, I set up camp, the motions relaxing me, anchoring me in routine. I built a fire, sat on a log, and listened to birdsong between bites of trail mix. The warmth of the flames flickered against the slowly darkening sky, and as the sun slipped below the horizon, the forest shifted. It always fascinated me how quickly the liveliness vanished, how silence took over like a velvet curtain falling on a stage. That night it felt deeper than usual. I leaned back, gazing into the fire, when a faint sound crept in. A haunting, faraway strain of music, something classical, old, and eerie. It reminded me of a record player from another era. It didn't fit. I stood up, scanning the forest for signs of light or movement. Nothing. Just that ghostly music over and over, the same melody on a loop. I told myself it had to be another camper, maybe someone a mile off playing music too loudly. But something about the unchanging tune and its persistence set my nerves on edge. I sat for 30 minutes, listening, trying to rationalize the unease creeping up my spine. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed my flashlight, only my flashlight, foolishly leaving behind my knife and pepper spray, and set off toward the sound. The further I walked, the louder the music grew. But still, there was no sign of a campsite or fire. The woods were dense, moonlight barely cutting through the treetops. I could feel my heartbeat ticking faster, my breath shallower, the hairs on my arms standing at full attention. I knew this was reckless, but I had to see. I had to know. Finally, I saw it. A large, outdated speaker propped behind a tree, humming out the same classical tune.
No cables.
No signs of anyone. No gear, no camp. Just that boxy speaker alone in the darkness. I approached slowly, scanning the area with my flashlight, stomach twisting tighter with every step. I reached out, pressed the power button, and with a mechanical click, the music stopped. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the music. I was standing in a pocket of darkness in the middle of the forest, next to a speaker placed there by someone I couldn't see, and I suddenly felt like I had walked into a trap. I didn't waste another second. I turned around and rushed back to camp, trying not to imagine eyes watching me through the trees. When I returned, something felt wrong. I stood by the fire, trying to settle my breathing, but an overwhelming feeling of being watched gnawed at me. That's when I noticed the missing items. My matches, cooking tools, pepper spray, and knife all gone. My blood ran cold. I hadn't imagined it. Someone had been here while I was gone. I wasn't alone. Panic set in. I stuffed everything I could into my pack and was about to take off when the music started again. Same song. Same direction, but closer, far closer than before. I didn't hesitate. I sprinted down. The trail, heart hammering, lungs burning, not daring to look back. 15 minutes down the path, the music was fading behind me, swallowed by the forest. I was finally calming down when something ahead caught my eye. My missing gear, lined up in the middle of the trail, neatly arranged like a display. Knife, utensils, pepper spray, all of it just lying there. My instincts screamed at me to keep running, but my body froze. What was the message? Before I could reach down, I heard footsteps thundering behind me. I spun around, flashlight cutting through the dark, but there was nothing. I didn't wait. I left everything and ran like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. I didn't stop until I reached my car and drove away without looking in the rearview. Felt like whoever had been out there was toying with me. I never went back to that trail. But the terror didn't end there. That same year, I decided to camp solo again, this time in the White Mountains, just an hour north of Fairbanks, Alaska. I'd been out for 2 days, the world around me vast and quiet, without a soul in sight. That afternoon, I was tending a fire when a man appeared. He looked like a regular hiker, gear and all, and he startled me. He asked about a cabin shelter supposedly nearby. I had seen a thin path leading into the woods earlier, probably toward one of those old public shelters. Poorly maintained, first come first serve. I pointed him in that direction, and he thanked me before vanishing into the trees. The rest of that day passed quietly. As night approached, that strange Alaskan twilight made the forest seem dreamlike. Shadows stretched long, but it never went fully dark. I was packing up some food when I saw him again, the same man walking toward me from the trees. He said he couldn't find the shelter and wanted me to lead him there. I thought it was odd that he'd been gone for hours and still hadn't located the path I clearly described. But he was insistent, saying he had no tent and needed help. I hesitated but agreed, slinging my bag over my shoulder, my gut already churning with warning. We walked in silence. His presence felt heavier now. 10 minutes in, we reached the trail, and sure enough, I could see the outline of the shelter. He said it wasn't the right one. Confused, I kept walking with him right up to the dilapidated structure. Broken windows, rotted wood, long abandoned. I turned to speak, and he was 10 feet back, holding a knife, face expressionless, voice cold as he told me to go inside. I didn't argue. I dropped my bag and bolted into the woods. I didn't hear him follow, but when I glanced back, he was still there, just staring. I found a hiding spot and stayed there for what felt like hours. Eventually, I crept back to the shelter. He was gone, but so was my bag. I made my way back to my campsite, praying it was untouched. But as I approached, the fire was burning brightly. My tent was still standing, and my bag had been returned, sitting eerily in the center of the site. I knew better. I didn't approach. Just then, he stepped out of the shadows, tossing wood into the fire like he lived there, humming to himself. I turned and ran again, not stopping until I found the trail, hiked for hours, and finally flagged down a car. The next morning, police and rangers found no trace. No bag, no fire pit, no sign I'd ever been there. 2 weeks ago, I thought I'd finally moved past those experiences. I set out for a backpacking trip through a trail in northeastern Wyoming, something routine, familiar. The hike started peacefully, but during a rest stop, I looked up and saw a man standing in the woods across the trail, just watching me. His wave was robotic, unsettling. I left quickly, unnerved. Hours later, at the first campsite, I sat down to cook dinner when he arrived. Same man, gray flannel, mid-30s, grinning like it was a mask he couldn't take off. He sat next to me, too friendly, too forceful. He mocked my food, offered me an open protein bar, insisted. I declined. When he said he'd be camping there too, I felt a cold relief. I could leave. I told him my friend was at the next site and left, walking faster than I ever had. 2 hours later, I reached the next camp and was just settling down when I heard footsteps again. He was back, still smiling. I asked if he was following me. He laughed like it was a joke and offered me food again. I snapped. I grabbed my bag and left, walking miles further, deep into the woods off-trail before setting up a hidden tent, ready to run again if I had to. Sometime in the night, I woke to the sound of crunching leaves, someone walking slowly, hunting through the dark. I lay frozen, listening as the steps passed nearby, then faded. He hadn't found me. The first light, I packed and left. I never saw him again, but the memories remain. These weren't coincidences. These were predators, men with patient eyes and twisted games. I was lucky. Others might not be. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found it gripping or unsettling, Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindle Stories Official for more chilling real-life tales and immersive narratives. Your support means the world.